Well, welcome everybody to Rosh Hashana 2017 in three parts. On behalf of myself and Congregation Beth Ruach, House of Spirit. Now, I'd like to thank you for joining me for this head of year or New Year's celebration. And I pride myself on ensuring that our services contain no tickets, no boredom. I hope no boredom. And I certainly hope that nobody walks away not understanding what's going on. This is the time to initiate into your life a sweet and fruitful year. And so make sure that you do have some apple and some honey at some point to give yourself a taste for what you are entitled to. Now, if you want your regular multi-hour, don't know what's happening or why, High Holy Day service, I'm terribly sorry to disappoint you. This is not it. So when it comes to this year's or any other year's days of awe, Yamim Noraim, and that's what this period of time is known as, from the start of Rosh Hashanah to the end of Yom Kippur. And it's an important way to consider this period and its invitation to observe introspection. Well, and keep in mind, you do not have to go big or go home or even go to a synagogue. It is about the sovereignty of God and repentance. And those are very personal explorations, and that's what this entire 10-day period is about. So observe it in your own way. It's a very personal holy day. Do not forget, this was not even one of the gathering festivals in the Torah, yet it is now the one festival of the year, the beginning and the end, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that attract more people at temple than any other days. And of course, this period, these 2 days, went on to supplant Passover as the most important holy day in the year. Torah times, Passover was by far the most important. Now, you actually have 10 days. And during this time, you can go to a service. You can host a service. You can take a walk, or maybe just sit and meditate. What's important is that you please make an effort to carve out some sacred time for yourself in any sacred space that appeals to you. That is all that is required. That, and think about self. Yes, it sounds kind of selfish, but think about self. It's really all about you. Now, if you cannot go to a service or choose not to go, or do not go because you do not understand what's happening or feel comfortable at it, or you do go and you still do not understand what transpired, remember, your prayers and your personal observance are completely individual, and they're based on your kavanah, your intention. God's not timing you. He doesn't care how long or short a time you take for your contemplation, your reflection, your examination. It's your service. Now, if you want to follow a semblance of the prescribed form of what takes place on this day, you can do this yourself or with your own group in your own time. And friends, it's far better you do some form of observance that you actually understand what you are doing and why. And that observation is part of your desire to make change in your life. Hirhurei teshuvah, the desire to improve. Desire is everything, my friends. It is your intention. Better you do a little bit that's of you than just go sit in a service that, you can't stand being at because it's too long and you don't get it. Now, what good is it if you know certain prayers are said but don't know why they're said or what they actually say? Now, almost any service book or the internet, the internet's fantastic these days. It'll provide you with the 4 or 5 key prayers that you could choose to recite. And you do not have to do them more than once. If you don't want to do them, do them. If you don't want to do them, don't do them. You don't have to do them at all. And I certainly believe you should do them in the language of your choice. Now, not a lot of people will tell you that, because that is what you understand, and I want you to understand what these prayers actually say. And there are countless sites on the internet that have the prayers and that have the Torah story of the day for you to enjoy it. I'm sure that there are shofar recordings all over the internet that you can hear. You can get one of those little plastic ones and blow, because it is the sound of the shofar that is one of the important things for this day. Now, you do not have to go to a service to observe a service. Friends, the Holy of Holies is in your heart. You carry it with you wherever you go. So just take a little bit of time. If you want to take 4 hours, 5 hours, please do so. If you want to take 5 minutes, please do so. It is about looking within. Now, we're gathered to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, head of the year, and this will be a different kind of celebration It's not so much a New Year event as a wake-up event that initiates this unique 10-day period that takes place at a very special time of the year. Now, I certainly realize that something which can be quite confusing and even difficult for many people, and yet is so important to the High Holy Days, is the concept of prayer. A lot of people they say, I really don't know how to pray. Well, prayer is just a simple discussion, invocation, entreaty, in which you seek to create a form of rapport between you and some greater entity that you're communicating with. And it is an individual undertaking. Everybody will feel differently as they pray. But like the Jewish prayer service, which began as an individual thing, it has developed over time to be one you can share in a group. But it still is an individual connection with God. Everyone's discussion and or entreaties with God or whoever are personal and individual. So whether you're in a group or by yourself, it's just you and your connection. Now, you're going to develop your own simple prayer service in order for you to be able to enjoy sacred time anytime you want. That's really what I'm trying to help you do. Now, this is something you can do for yourself. You can do it with others. You can do it anywhere. And it is great to do alone in a group because you can be with other people doing a similar thing, but everybody's really doing their own thing. You get from it what you want. Forget about what anyone else does, says, gets. This is your chance to spend time with your thoughts, your soul, your dreams, your divinity. And it's great to use music and song, traditional and new. Don't be afraid to put modern music in to help you keep focused on one thing, your intention of self-awareness, of mindfulness, of spirit during this period, because music moves the heart. Now, during this time of the year, many people come up to you and say Shana Tova or L'Shana Tova, which is basically the same thing. It means for a good year. Well, we should all have good years every year, and we should say it throughout the year. Don't wait for one specific day. Whether you're doing this yourself or in a larger community setting, we are all part of a larger community, the community of man. So let us all come together as a community, a chavura fellowship, as we do every week, and join together to express our nature of kindness, of compassion, thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, and wishes that we each have that unites us all in this house of spirit, the Beth Ruach. So please invite everybody you know, physically, psychically, emotionally, spiritually, to gather with you and share, because it is all about sharing together as a community. From Psalm 133, Hine Matov, Hine Matov. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, Hine Matov, Benai, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good and how pleasant it is for brothers and sisters together. Community, community, community together. So let's all as a community spread love, goodwill, and fellowship to the world. Now, it's a simple meditative tune, Hine Matov, that calls for everybody to gather together, men and women equally, as one, and noting that how great it is when we do come together as a spiritual fellowship. Now, many of the Psalms in either this or your regular weekly Sabbath service are recited as forms of personal meditation or prayer, and that is what we do alone or together. And I do encourage you each to keep it a personal thing. Don't worry if you're not doing what other people are doing. In fact, all prayer used to be individual. Today we have a very formalized system where there are 3 prayer services during the average day, one associated with each of the patriarchs. And not because we know any of this to be true, but because that is what developed over time, and for everything that develops, you need a reason. And over time, these became the accepted reasons. Well, Abraham supposedly prayed in the morning, shacharit, morning light. Isaac prayed in the afternoon, mincha, named for the flower offering accompanying afternoon prayer at the Jerusalem temple. And the temple, of course, was significantly after the time of Isaac. Jacob, they say, prayed in the evening, and so Mariv, the word for nightfall. So those are the 3 basic services that you will find every day. Now, during certain festivals, additional prayer services would be added, and today, the conservative and the Orthodox branches of Judaism have what's called Musaf prayers, which mean additional. And that forms a fourth service. And then on Yom Kippur, there's a fifth service, Ne'ilah, which means closing. Now, the similarities between them are striking. Do you need to do them all? It's a choice. I'd never tell you to do or not to do. That's something Yoda does, do or don't do. But only you know if you get any more by doing them over again or sitting there longer. It's not about endurance, it's about what you get from it. What's important is to try and do them once and with meaning in your own life. Now, we know from the great scholar Maimonides, the Rambam, Rabbeinu Moshe, and Maimon, our rabbi, Moses, son of Maimon, that until the Babylonian exile, all Jews composed their own prayers. There was no prayer book. Now, you've heard me say it many times, prayer and prayer service develop based on kavanah, based on your intention. Friends, make your individual worship based on your intention alone. Now, that's what we're going to do to celebrate this special holy day. We're going to focus on the things that make this day different than any other prayer service. So we're going to focus more on the prayers that you won't hear the rest of the year. And it's one of a few holy days that is called for in the Bible, but it is not called Rosh Hashanah in the Bible. Rosh Hashanah means head of the year, and that phrase is said nowhere. So why is it celebrated now? Well, we're told it's the Jewish New Year, the anniversary of the creation of Adam and Eve, a day of judgment and coronation, and a day of sounding the shofar. Those are all the official definitions. Now, wow, that's an awful lot. But we were told when we observed Passover that the beginning of the year was in Nisan, not Tishrei. That was the first of the year in the commencement of counting time. And that can be found back in Exodus 12:2, when God's explaining the rules and regulations for Passover to Moses. And he says, "This month, Nisan, shall be to you the head of the months. To you it shall be the first of the months of the year. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month in the evening." So the Torah tells us that the first of Nisan is the beginning of the year. So what happened? Well, sometime after the return from Babylon, teshuvah, return, that's so important a word and concept, and we're going to talk about it a lot. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be psychological, and it can be spiritual. And most people at some point in their lives undertake a spiritual teshuvah, a spiritual return. Well, sometime between the Torah and the codification of the Mishnah, this holy day became the new year. Even though in the Bible it says the first day of the seventh month, not the first day of the first month. And I'm sure it was wrought with Talmudic rabbinic arguments, and wow, to have been a fly on that one. Now, this was partly a political decision, as so many religious things are, because the Babylonian calendar and the names of the months and the stories, all learned during the exile, were brought back, and many of the names were the same. So in order to distance the people from what they had learned and had been indoctrinated to, it was decided to change the counting of time. You know, maybe if it had been edited a little bit differently, I mean, we would never even have realized this. Now, it was partly from the study of gematria, which is the rearranging of words to come up with a numeric value, and therefore you connect certain words and phrases because their value is the same. So the Mishnah in Sanhedrin 38b gives us a clue. Our sages tell us that the first word of the Torah, as we all know, is Bereshit, and it numerically, by rearranging the letters, becomes B'Tishrei. Now, as we know, Bereshit means in the beginning or at the head of, while B'Tishrei means on the first of Tishrei. Now, those two dates and events are therefore connected, and Rosh Hashanah happens to be the holiday that begins on the first of Tishrei. And because there are no coincidences, so it must have been preordained. Luckily, there was an unnamed holiday called for to take place on the first day of the seventh month, and it is now treated as Rosh Hashanah, but serves a much more powerful position. Now, we're first told about this day in two places, in Leviticus 23:23 and in Numbers 29:1. Now, although we now read Numbers after Leviticus, Numbers makes much more sense as part of a continuous story, with Leviticus, as a book added much later by the priestly class looking to cement power, and probably not even a book that was open to the general public. It would have been kept just for them. Well, in Numbers 29:1 we read, Uba chodesh hashabi ba'achad lachodesh mikre kodesh Adonai lachem kal melaket abada latashu yom teruah Adonai lachem, and in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, you shall have a holy assembly. You shall not do any active work. You shall have a day of horn blasting, Yom Teruah. Okay, so it's in the 7th month on the first day. Now, it's an important day, a day of horn blasting. The first day of the 7th month, a day to hear the shofar. And that's just about all we are told of this holiday. We're really not told much else. Nowhere is it referred to as any kind of New Year. And that actually has had a bit of a detrimental effect on how people see this holiday period. I get an enormous number of people wishing me happy Rosh Hashanah. Now, I would get it if it were Christmas, January the 1st, maybe even Chinese New Year. But it is not a new year like January the 1st, although we can certainly see it as a new year of spirit and a new year of our own growth. But it is the first day of the 7th month, and because the calendar was astrological in nature, the 7th month is the month of Libra, symbolized by the scales of justice. It is the time to examine self because we are seeking renewal in the book of life, and that is determined by our karma. Right. Now, we've heard that there were 4 New Years in the Jewish calendar, and there may be, but I suggest that the 4 were represented actually by the solstices and the equinoxes, the solar days that stick out in any lunar calendar. These are not the days that were suggested in the Mishnah Rosh Hashana, which lists the 4 New Years as the 1st of Nisan in the spring, to count the reign of kings, the 1st of Elul, around August sometime, which was the New Year for animals, the 1st of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, the New Year of man, because that was the day of his creation, and the 15th of Shvat, also known as Tu B'Shvat, sometime in January, February, and representing the New Year of the trees. Now, the only 2 that I think really are the right ones are the 1st of Nisan and Tishrei, but not for the reasons given. Now, that is still the official party line. But when you study the calendar, the rituals, the writings, it makes much more sense that the 4 New Years are the 4 dates that unite a solar and lunar calendar, the solstices and the equinoxes, which stick out as holy times in every ancient calendar. The 2 equinoxes are special. This one, the 1st of Tishrei, and the 1st of Nisan, the beginning of the year, stand head and shoulders above other dates for very good reason. They are the dates of balance, of bringing our senses, our spirits, our souls back to balance, back into a sense of congruence. Both those dates are a chance to reset. There's an equal amount of light and dark, an equal amount of light in our lives. And we can ask ourselves, which way have you vibrated? Which way do you want to vibrate? And that's what this holiday is actually all about. Now, the first of those is the first day of the year, and we set in motion the year and the life that we want to have. How are we going to act, behave, treat others, treat ourselves, treat the world, treat God? On the second of them, we initiate the month of Libra, the month of justice, of judgment, of balance. We can initiate course correction. Now, those dates also mark 2 of the most important change in seasons, spring and fall. So let us quickly add in our change of season ritual, which you do not do at your typical Rosh Hashanah service, but since our own meditative prayer service should be a sensual event incorporating all of our senses, so that we are wholly present whenever we are trying to do this kind of spiritual work, let's honor the senses as we do when we close the Sabbath every week, by adopting a form of the Havdalah, or separation service. And we do this when you join me for our quarterly change of season rituals. Now, the thing I love the most about it is it's an invocation of our senses. And prayer and your personal observation and meditation should be completely sensual experiences accompanying your whole being. So I will borrow from the Havdalah, as we do every quarter, to initiate our time to mark Rosh Hashanah, which, as we know, means beginning or head of the year, and invoke our senses and thus be fully present in the moment. It is an awakening of our spirit. So let's join together to engage our senses. And we'll work through them. We'll start with vision, because flame reminds us that within each one of us lives the divine fire that can illuminate the darkest of places. Now may this light enable you to see the work that needs to be done and the awesome majesty of creation. And while normal candle lighting, is a ritual that's done by women, I believe everybody should light a candle to bring light into their lives. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov. Blessed are you, source of life, who makes us holy with commandments and instructs us to kindle the lights of this holy day. So there's our light. I don't know if you can see it. Now there's two essentials to taste. Two things we require for sustenance: food and drink. Now, I don't have both with me, okay? But we raise our cup, and I don't have a cup, so I'm raising my glass, my bottle of Fiji water. We raise our cup, thankful for the partnership we have with creation. May the fruits of the earth nourish each of us and sustain us throughout our journey. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Now, blessed are you, source of life, who creates the fruit of the vine. We also, in initiating the eating of the family meal, or the apples and honey on this particular day, we say a blessing over the bread, the challah. But you can do it over anything, so do it over apples and honey. It can be cut, it can be ripped, it can be eaten, with salt or any other way you want to do it. But it goes back to the beginning of acknowledging to God for what we have. Now, unfortunately, I didn't. I don't have anything with me. I thought I was going to have a rice cake, but I forgot to bring it. My apologies. So take an apple and dip it in some honey. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam chamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Lord God, ruler of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. We see things, we taste things, and less notice, but probably just as, if not more important, we smell things. Some pleasant, some not so pleasant. The sense of smell. It's invisible. The sense of smell comes to us through the air. We breathe in the fragrances of life and we awaken, and in our breath, we sound the names of the Creator, awakening us to the creative force that gives breath, spirit, ruach, to all of life. May the breath of the universe rouse each of us to strength and to passion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim. Now, blessed are you, beloved one, who creates the variety of fragrances. And of course, in lifting things to our mouths, we need to hold, to touch. We think a touch through our hands, holding a beloved, comforting a friend, planting a garden, wrapping ourselves in the talit, the cloth and traditions of our ancestors. May we always know the love and safety we can find wrapped within our own rich traditions. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu el mitzvah tzitzit. Blessed are you, source of life, who commands us to wrap ourselves in the radiance of creation. And one of the things we do in so many of our celebrations is to perform acts of purity. And we do so by feeling water wash over us and cleanse us of our day-to-day being. It's a spiritual experience, and it removes any evils and any spirit from our auras and helps sanctify us for holy time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu el netilat yadayim. Blessed are you, source of life, who governs all there is, who has sanctified us and commanded us to wash our hands. Now, I'll do it with my Fiji water. Normally you pour water over your hands from the two-handed jug. Now, the fifth and the last of our regular senses relates to our auditory ability to sound, because there's a rhythm to the day, to the week, to the year, to life itself, and to all creation. Whether we know the words or just hum along, we can always feel the music. May we all continue to hear and dance to our own beat, and we will be closing the service with the sound of the shofar, so we'll defer it to then. May the sound of life and all there is be a blessing to you. And friends, in many ways, Rosh Hashanah is far more of a listening holy day than a seeing holy day. And we normally use our sight more than our sight. Now, it's about hearing the sound of the shofar more so than seeing the temple. The sound of the shofar was a very special sound. It was used to announce special events, such as new moons, jubilee years, and the first day of the seventh month, right, which is one of its most important features. Now, it serves as a wake-up call to take stock of ourselves and our souls. We have marked the change in season from full growth to cultivation. Let us take stock of ourselves and cultivate our personal best as we begin the 10 days of awe. So thank you very much. Stay with us and join me for the second part. Thank you. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye.